I guess just kind of let everybody know what you're running for, man.
Yeah, well, my name's Anthony Bonna. I'm the Republican candidate for state representative for District 85, which is Port St. Lucie south across town and north and Martin County north of State Road 714. So Toby Overdorf is the current state rep. He is term limited, can't run again. And I'm running for state rep for a few reasons. Just public service, it's not a career to me. I grew up in the community. I was helped by a lot of organizations growing up, whether it be my church or Big Brothers Big Sisters. Got scholarships from the Education Foundation, the Rotary Club, and had an opportunity to attend Georgetown, earn a finance degree, and wanted to come back home. And I started investing in those things that invested in
Yeah.
me. So I've
Yeah.
been a member of the Rotary Club for over a decade, been a big brother and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and on the board. I just finished up as 2 years as chairman of the Education Foundation. I interviewed Georgetown students. In 2018, Governor Scott appointed me to the St. Lucie County Commission. There was a vacancy for about 8 months.
I seen
A-
that.
And I had the opportunity to serve for 8 months. And I really saw my time on the county commission as an extension of that commitment to giving back. We were still a very Democrat county at that time. And so I wasn't able to get the full term. And but I came back in 2021. There was another vacancy on the city council, and I ran for that in a special election and won pretty decisively and was reelected. So I haven't been on the city council for that long, but I've been on there for about 4 years now.
Yeah, I've seen your name from the very beginning. We've been voting for you. We've been watching you. We've been watching you grow. We've been watching you work all these years since we've been here. We've been voting for you. Um, I guess it's kind of funny because I mean, dude, you're super busy. Like I was looking up your background, and it's just like one thing after another. Boom, boom, boom. So it's like it's not even a question if you're qualified or not because it's all there, dude. So I guess it's probably a good opportunity how we met, how this meeting even took place, how this even got formed was you knocked on my door. You knocked on
Yeah.
my door and I looked outside. I'm like, "Oh snap." I'm like, "That's Anthony Bonna." I'm like, "What's up, man?" And we spoke for like an hour, I think, pretty much just like we're talking right now. And one of the things that I noticed the most was it was you and it was you alone knocking door to door. Something that you do not see very often, man. And I super respect that. It kind of lets you know that you're a hard worker, dude. You are a hard worker, man. And you went out and you were knocking on doors, door to door, porch to porch, person to person, and your signs are everywhere. So you have been busy. You've been busy, my friend.
Well, I really believe in it. I think if you wanna serve the public, it is a privilege. It's a lot of work, but it is a privilege. And I believe you have to work for it. You have to listen to people. You have to um you have to do the work to get your name out there. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've done thousands and thousands of doors, and we're to continue doing that. And one of the reasons, because you listen to some of the other candidates, my Democratic opponent, they throw around terms like career politician or whatever.
The talking points, right?
I've been in
The
office four
slogans.
years, and but one of the things that I say, oh, he's jumping from city council to state rep or things like that. Well, I'll tell you why I've run in for state rep. As a local official, one of the things I was very frustrated with was number one, Port St. Lucie Boulevard and how long it took.
Oh,
And that
dude.
was an FDOT project.
Yeah.
And, we need someone up there advocating for our roads and infrastructure. Number two, property taxes, big deal. We have an amendment
Yeah.
on the ballot. Whether or not that passes, there's going to be a lot of work to do on property taxes, which is an issue I've been passionate about for years. Governor DeSantis is leaving office. We're going to have a new governor, whoever that
Mm-hmm.
is, and we need to make sure. I mean, Florida's made it. Florida's made a lot of conservative ground in the past
Oh,
8 years.
oh yeah,
And
dude.
a lot of it's going to be defense. A lot of it is going to be making sure that we have people conservative enough not to undo
Exactly.
what Governor DeSantis did. And so I
No
want to be up
rhinos.
there for that. And so I really felt called. I talked it with my family. I prayed about it, and we really felt that it was being called to the state legislature at this time, or at least this race.
Yeah, that's it's dude, you constantly have to make sure, like you said, the defense. You constantly have to make sure it's one thing to get in there, to get a foothold. It's another thing to defend your ground. And that's where a lot of, I think, especially in the Republican Party now, that's a lot of people are sick and tired of Republicans, the rhinos. They talk a good game around election time, but when it comes to actually doing things, it doesn't happen. And then it's always some mumbo jumbo excuse about why they can't do it. Or, there's just so many problems. And that's on the federal level. I think a lot of people get frustrated. But another thing I think people are starting to realize now is how important local elections are. Their local politicians will have a bigger impact and more influential on them than federal, Senate and House of Representatives. So I think this is why it's important for people like you, the real conservatives, the real Republicans, to get a foothold and to get in these positions that actually make a difference.
Well, and one of the things I don't think people realize, because if you look at a city like Port St. Lucie, right, we have a bunch of out of control growth that was
Mm,
approved a while ago. The county has the highest tax rate in the state.
hmm.
We're paying off debt from failed economic investments, and I don't think because of that narrative and that context and that history that a lot of people realize how conservative the local city government is. So, we and Port St. Lucie, sixth largest city in Florida, I believe we are the largest city in Florida that is 100% controlled by Republicans.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and the reason I say it's conservative, if you look at just the city tax rate, it's the third lowest city tax rate of the top 20 largest cities. It's been cut every year for 10 years. The day after Governor DeSantis announced Florida Doge, I said, we need to cooperate with this. We
Oh,
passed a Doge resolution.
yeah.
We got the 287G agreements on immigration. We've been paying down the debt. Can you believe it's well over a decade ago, since those failed economic investments?
Yeah.
So, we've been investing in our police. So I think when you look at what a local conservative government should do, I think we're doing a lot
No,
of
yeah.
it, but there's a lot of bad history there that's kind of clouded the city. So that's why these
Yeah,
conversations are so important
they
because,
are.
you know,
It's all that type of damage, that type of, like you said, that debt. It takes time. It takes time to get out of that stuff. It's really no different than how a person handles their personal debt, like on their credit card or their car loans or something. It's like the decision you made with that credit card only took 5 seconds, but paying off that debt could take 5 years. So it's like, and that kind of thing takes time. So when you have a group of people that came in, 10 years ago and made all these really bad decisions, it's going to take time to get out of that kind of rut. And I totally think we're in the right direction. And like you said, there's a lot more to go, but it's a lot different now knowing you have, staunch conservatives and Republicans in the office than, you know, if the roles were reversed, it would be, two steps forward, three steps back. And that's how I feel like a lot of people feel about politics. It's like when you start making momentum, when you start making movements and you get that momentum going, it's like the party switch, power switches, and then it just goes back. And it feels like people get stuck and people just don't feel like things are moving fast enough. So I guess what do you expect to see, over the next just kind of brainstorm over the next 4 or 5 years. What do you expect to see happening to Port St. Lucie? Like, what can people start to expect to see with their roads, with their infrastructure, with the soccer stadium, with with all these issues that we're working on currently? What do you think is going to get done over the next 4, 5, 6, 8 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, my hope is that a lot of these infrastructure projects come to completion.
Yeah.
We're 121 square miles in land mass. That's the third largest city in terms of land. I think one of our biggest challenges is from the very beginning, the city was poorly planned. It's a relatively
Hmm.
young city, and we just don't have and there were these approvals made in the early 2000s, which is allowing all of this development to happen today. We're trying to curb it. We're acquiring green space. We're doing some rezoning strategically when there's willing sellers and landowners. But I think once a lot of the infrastructure is built out, as long as we don't add density, it's actually people are going to be able to move rather quickly. And so I hope to see some of those roads come to completion and fruition. I
Yeah.
know this, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, and I know the city is still working to acquire more green space. So I hope they just started a naturally PSL initiative, and I really hope that takes foot. And we're able. We've done about 280 acres in the past year and a half, which is about an acre for every 1,000 residents. But we need to do more.
Yeah, nothing gets on people's nerves more than when they're sitting in traffic on a congested road trying to get home on a Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. in Port St. Lucie, and they're just like, dude, there's too many people here. Dude, these roads are not wide enough, they're not big enough. They need to focus on the infrastructure, roads and bridges. But you guys are working on it. They are working on it. You see it's I mean, it's under construction, and like you said, it just has to get done. And but yeah, so I think a lot of those problems arise as people are sitting in traffic. I do it. I'm guilty of it. I'm sitting on US 1 and there's, road construction and you're just like, what is going on here, man? Is there really that many people that came here that these just roads can't handle it? And yeah, that's kind of the problem. I mean, we exploded in growth, exploded. Just from I've only been in Port St. Lucie since 2020. So just the 6 years that I've been here, it seems like it's doubled. Like it's been insane.
Well, we've had a couple of factors that really compounded things, one negative, one positive. So the positive is, and there's lots of people that want to criticize Florida or talk about some of the issues we're facing. The fact is, people are leaving California and New York, and they're coming to Florida. They're
Exactly.
they're not, so we have our challenges like every state. We need to keep our eye on the ball on affordability, insurance, and those things. But all things equal, this is a state that people want to come to
Oh
because
yeah.
we have good policies. And you know, if Governor DeSantis weren't governor and it was Governor Gillum, I mean, we would be we we would have a whole set of different problems,
Oh
but people
dude.
wouldn't have come to Florida. But and the other thing that happened too is when the Biden administration doled out all of those federal dollars, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, for infrastructure. You know economics like I do. They created all this artificial demand, which rose the price of everything. And so a road now costs two, three, four times what it
More.
costs because the prices went up with that artificial demand. But our incomes didn't go up. And
Mm.
so even though the property taxes have a value side to it that's supposed to account for inflation, it's still, that
It's not enough.
it's not enough. So we're not able to do as much with the property taxes that we're getting.
Yeah, that was another thing I actually wanted to get into. I have it written down is the this property tax bill. This is a question that I'm hearing a lot from a lot of people is they hear that, the this elimination, all right, this elimination of property taxes is in the House or it was passed in the House. I'm not really sure where it's at now. Um, but it is. It's on people's radar because it is a much needed relief to people if their property taxes were to be cut in half or cut by a third or cut at all would relieve a lot of people from financial burden because I'm telling you what, the property taxes here, although we may be one of the lowest in the state, it is still skyrocketed over the past 4 years, 5 years. Um, I mean, just anecdotal for my personal taxes. I mean, I'm paying $5,000 a year for property taxes. And so you can imagine what that does on your monthly mortgage because, I pay in an escrow, just typical, your normal average middle class American family, we pay into an escrow. And so if property taxes go up every year, so does our mortgage. Our monthly payment goes up. And so when people hear that property taxes may be getting cut, man, that is a sight for sore eyes. So I guess kind of explain what is that? What can we expect to see? Is it I've heard it has something to do with the homestead exemption. But what is it? What type of relief can people expect to see from that property tax bill that may be getting passed or may not get passed? I'm not sure.
So a couple things happened. So one, the legislature did pass a bill which says, um, which is in effect today, where if you want to raise, if you want to pass a millage rate at the end of the year, which you have to pass every budget year, um, you're familiar with the rollback rate. That's basically the rollback rate is if you were to collect the same amount of revenue from this year as you did last year, with some adjustment for growth. And so if you're going to go above the rollback rate by 10%, you need 4 out of 5 members of your governing body to vote for it. If you're going to go more than 10%, then you need unanimous. So rollback rate is fine. And then more is 4 out of 5. And then even more than 10% is unanimous. And so that immediately, because a lot of times what happens, and if you look back at the past 10 years of the city, we've cut the rate a little bit every year, but we were
The
still collecting more revenue.
Yeah.
Um, and but there's a lot of governments that just left the rate the same or whatever. But even what we did in the city, there are many years where we would have needed 4 out of 5 votes, and even 1 or 2 where would have needed 5 out of 5 votes.
And
Um,
that's just to keep it the same. The or like so you would need 4 out of 5 votes to do what? Just to keep it the same or to decrease it, increase it?
so every year the property appraiser assesses the property values. And so let's say, um, so the rollback rate is the rate that would generate the same amount of revenue this year as it did last year. So
So you just
um,
keep the rollback is you just keep everything the same, you don't touch anything, and you just collect the same as what you did the year before.
yeah, but the rollback rate would generally be lower than last year's property tax rate because property values increase. Does it make sense? So there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
value, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a value side and a rate side. So if you want to go above that rollback rate, between, anything above the rollback rate to 10% above the rollback rate, you need 4 out of 5 votes. And if you want to go more than 10%, you need 5 out of 5. And so that immediately is going to reduce a lot of government spending. The actual amendment that's on the ballot requires 60% support. So the state house did pass complete elimination, and
Wow.
um, but the Senate decided to wait for what the governor's proposal was. So nothing really got done during session. They ended up coming back for a special session, and what came out of that, it wasn't even the governor's proposal. It was changed. So the governor had proposed, I think, $150,000 the first year, then $250,000 exemption the second year, and he did not exclude schools. The legislature's proposal does exclude schools. So you will not have that large homestead exemption for the school portion of your tax bill, which in St. Lucie County is about a third of your tax bill.
It's a lot, yeah. Which I don't mind. Listen,
Mhm.
you want to take taxes for schools? I think I don't. I agree. I think that's. I don't think anybody. I don't. It'd be hard to find someone that's like, oh no, I don't even want my taxes going to the schools. I get it. Schools. I'm okay with that. My kids go to the public schools. I think a lot of people would be okay with that. I think it's all the other stuff that people see their money going towards. They're like, can we not like eliminate the outdoor gyms that we're seeing? Like, can we
Yeah.
not like eliminate that kind of stuff? That's the kind of things I think people see and they're like, look, I feel like you guys probably could cut back on property taxes.
The other thing the governor had in that made it that didn't make it in the final proposal was he had a fund that different local governments could go to kind of fill the gap. If you know, and so the legislature did away with the so-called slush fund. So there's a there's still an appropriations process and those kind of things, but there's no specific slush fund to make up revenue. One of the other things that the proposal does do is every year on non-homesteaded property, so a lot of rentals and things like that,
Hmm.
um, a homesteaded property can go up about 3% a year. A rental property or a non-homesteaded property can go up 10% a year.
Wow.
So, which is the value, which is significant. Well,
Yeah, it's a big one.
now they slash that in half to 5%,
Okay.
which is a big benefit to renters
Yeah.
because
Their
those
rates won't go up. I mean, what they won't
yeah,
have to go up because the owner of the property won't have to increase their rate because they're having to pay so much more in property taxes.
yeah. So, I support the proposal. I'm going to vote for the proposal. We have to be careful and vigilant to see what kinds of things are proposed
Hmm.
to replace this revenue. This amendment only looks at the value side. So it places no cap on the millage rate. So, you know, the city or the county or your fire or your some of your other agencies can say, okay, well, you increase the exemption this month, we're going to raise the rate to 10 mils or something.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that that we need to watch out for. That I think a lot of people just hear, and this is just going off of, anecdotal, my personal experiences from friends and family. They're like, look, they're talking about eliminating property taxes. And then the very first question you will hear from people is, well, how are they going to pay for the fire department? How are they going to pay for the police? Like there's something something's not connecting when they hear they're going to eliminate the property taxes. And so I think you have one half of the people that are like, go for it. Eliminate it all. I don't want to pay for nothing, which is completely understandable. I might be one of those people, except for schools. I think there needs to be tax for schools. Then you have the other half of the people that are like, well, where are they going to get the money from? So there's a little bit of concern about if they eliminate property taxes, where would that money come from? And so the first thing that pops in the mind is sales tax. And so explain a little bit about where would the money come from if they were to just say, for instance, just being hyperbolic, if they were to just eliminate, you know, eliminate all property taxes except for, taxes for the schools. That's it. Or, you know what? Or we can even say taxes for schools, fire departments, police. I don't know what that tax would be, but everything else is gone except for the schools and the necessities. What would that look like? Where would they get the money from?
I mean, the government does have other sources of revenue. Sales tax. I mean, I've seen no desire to raise the sales tax at the state
Mm,
level. In fact, they actually looked at reducing it briefly in one of these past sessions. Um, so, but local option sales taxes, we have one in St. Lucie County. It may come up for renewal, I think, in a couple of years. But it's the half a cent for the roads, and then you have also the school has their own half a cent. Um, and so those are approved by voters. Um, Then there's also fees for different services. The city charges a fee for stormwater. We charge a fee for solid waste.
For everything.
Um, yeah,
That's
well,
what it seems like. Yeah.
those are the two on the tax bill. And then you may see things, maybe events at the city that were free or are going to be ticketed now, which may make more sense because
Yeah.
I always said even if 10% of the city showed up at an event, 90% of taxpayers didn't benefit from that event,
Yeah, exactly.
So you may see more fees for user services. Those are
I'd be
decisions that are going
perfectly.
to be made,
Yeah.
yeah, by
I
local governments.
I'd be perfectly happy with that. And another thing I was thinking of, tourism. I mean, Florida could generate so much money if they figured out a way to tax tourism here. I mean, I'm talking, have them pay for the turnpike. I mean, when tourists are coming down through Florida, I mean, sorry, tourists coming down to Florida, but I mean, you could alleviate a lot of pressure off actual Florida residents if you just, I don't know, charge the tourists a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of people coming here to Florida.
Yeah, and I know one of the other proposals I've heard some of the gubernatorial candidates talk about, like the documentary stamp tax when you purchase a new home, but not for first-time home buyers who live in Florida, because we don't want to make it more unaffordable to get your first
Exactly.
home, but for people moving here from other states,
Makes
um,
sense.
you know, so ideas like that, which we want to protect Florida residents and make sure that this is a benefit to Florida residents and they don't see their costs go up in other places.
Yeah, because I'm telling you right now, I see the struggle is real, my friend. You have people out here that are literally having to move because they can't afford either their taxes are going up on their property taxes going up, 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 up. So their monthly mortgage is going up, and then insurance is an absolute insanity here in the state of Florida. And so you look around, you talk to people, and they are struggling, my friend. And I mean, even myself personally, I'm like, dude, we may have to move. Like, I mean, if our property insurance goes up anymore or taxes go up anymore, I mean, we are really, really hurting. And that's me. I'm a middle class average American. I could not imagine somebody that's been here for 25 years, that's, kind of acclimated to what they've been paying. And then in the last 6 years, be dealt what they've been dealt with these property taxes and homeowners insurance. It's no wonder people are talking about leaving because they can't afford to live here, which is unfortunate if we kind of New York or California, Florida, and force people to move because it's just getting so friggin' expensive here, man. But that does seem to be what's happening based off the people that I talk to. So I don't know what we can do to fix that. But that was just something else I wanted to get into is the homeowners insurance. That's kind of a big problem for us too.
Well, and the first thing I would say to a lot of folks, if you haven't shopped your policy recently, make sure to call your agent and shop because there have been some reforms
Hmm.
that have stabilized the market. And so,
Yeah.
I would shop policies regularly. Um, we've got to be careful because we have to look at the difference between rates and premiums. So, because of this massive inflation that has happened, and there's many reasons for it, and I pinpoint it to the Biden administration and
Oh,
COVID.
almost
Um,
fully. Yeah.
but it is the reality. It's really hard to get prices to come down once they've been once they've been
I
inflated.
mean, that is like the laws of the universe, man. It just never happens.
Well, now, when I bought my house in 2018, it was $171,000.
Hmm.
Same house, it's close to $400,000
Exactly.
now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So,
doubled. Yeah.
and so that's the challenge. We're paying to insure something that's worth double.
Double, triple, almost. Yeah.
And so would it not make sense that the insurance would cost close to double
Of
or
course.
triple because
Hmm.
that's what the replacement value is. So rates for the most part have stabilized. I know that that is not comforting to families like yours and mine, and that are, that are looking at how we're going to
Yeah.
make ends meet. But um,
It's happening. My rates went down too. I mean, it's like, I can't my policy, and again, this is anecdotal, my policy went from $5,800 a year to just this is the first year I switched insurance companies because every year I would have to shop around to get a better deal. My policy went down to $3,500. So huge savings. So it's happening. I think more competition. There's a lot of stuff that's happening that you guys worked on over the last couple of years that has helped. But I think it's just taking a little time for people to see it.
and the reason, the reason I talk about all that was done is because it's really tempting, as on so many issues, to listen to the left and say, well, why don't you just control what they can charge, or why don't you
Hmm.
do this? And then what you end up doing is you end up driving all the companies out of
Yep.
Florida, reducing the competition, and
Increasing prices.
and increasing prices. And so I definitely get it that there's affordability and that it's a real challenge for families, but we can't afford to turn the clock on ending lawsuit abuse. We can't afford to reduce competition, because that ultimately is going to be bad for Florida, bad for affordability.
And that's one thing I think a lot of people missed on. One of my first podcast episodes was the insurance crisis in Florida. And this was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I think. It was actually one of my best performing episodes because people were like, what the hell is going on with our insurance? And so I did a lot of research, talked to a lot of different customers, talked to a lot of different people. And one thing I noticed when I was going around my personal job, I'm not going to disclose, I'm not going to tell people what it is, but I work with a lot of people in these neighborhoods, these gated communities. One of the things I noticed when I'm driving through, everybody was getting their roof done. Every single house was getting their roof done. I'm like, what is going on here? Sure enough, I find out from the customers that it was every time a hurricane would come through, these HOAs would go to the residents and say, hey, you need to file a claim on your roof. Um, and just to make a long story short, is they would sign over. I'm not exactly sure of the process, but they would sign over ownership or contractual ownership of the roof to the contractor. And then the contractor would file a claim to the insurance saying, hey, this person needs a roof replaced. This hurricane damaged the roof. The insurance companies would say, absolutely not. We're not covering it. And then that contractor, since they basically have rights to the home, would sue the insurance companies. The insurance companies would then have to go to court, pay court costs. And I'm sure you probably know all about this because this is one of the litigating things that happened over the last couple of years to kind of stabilize insurance. And because of that, the insurance companies got absolutely wrecked when it comes to people replacing their roofs. This was like I don't want to call it a scam, but it was kind of scammy, but it was a loophole that these contractors were using to force insurance companies to pay to replace these roofs. And it just went wild. It went bonkers. I think when I did my episode, it was like $4 billion in 1 year insurance companies paid out in roof replacements, bankrupted insurance companies. And like you said, they left. They left the state of Florida, and there was a handful of companies left for the rest of us to use. And guess what happened? Increased in rates. Everybody's insurance rates went up, and this was the start of the insurance crisis in Florida that a lot of people didn't know about, but a lot of it had to do with that roofing loophole back in like 2020, 2021. It was a mess, dude.
Yeah, well, definitely, we have definitely moved the needle,
Oh
and
yeah,
I'm hoping, you know, one of the reasons I say I want to go up there, because I just want to make sure we don't go backwards.
stuff like that, exact stuff like that. And after Governor DeSantis signed the legislation that contractors would then now have to pay court costs if they took the insurance company to court, when he signed that bill or executive order, I can't remember which one it was. The roofing stopped. Like all these roofing companies left these gated communities. There was nobody getting their roofs done anymore. I can't tell you how much money that these roofing companies probably made. It has to be billions. I mean, just from my personal experience, I've seen 500 roofs get replaced, all paid for by insurance companies. And so these roofing companies made a fortune, man. But now, since they signed that bill, it stopped almost overnight. Nobody was getting their roofs done anymore because the insurance companies didn't have to wasn't forced to pay it. But now, the damage is done, and like you said, once prices go up, it's really hard for them to come back down. But that was a big contributing factor, I think, to the roofing crisis or the insurance crisis here. Um, so can you see from what you can see, do you see more insurance companies coming in? Is like, are they saying more are coming, creating more competition, more shopping?
Yeah, more and more coming in.
Yeah.
Uh, every month I'm hearing about someone new coming in.
What's something that you guys, is there anything on the table here in Port St. Lucie that you know about, or is there anything in the future that's going to help bring these rates down even more, or just help the insurance issue in Florida in general? Is there anything on the table?
I know there's some things and programs in our building department that some certification or classification that we have that's good for insurance rates, but it's largely a state issue.
It's a state issue, yeah. And you can't, like you said, you don't want to do the progressive, the Democrat thing where you just, oh, yeah, tell the insurance companies they can only charge this much money because, like you said, they'll be gone.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to stick around either if you're going to sit and rob me of all my money. They got to make money too, man. I know it's a crazy world we live in, but that is, that's the way our great republic was built, man. That's democracy. That's capitalism. Sometimes, it doesn't look good, but the alternatives are much, much worse. So there was actually there was one thing. There was a candidate down in Miami last year or 2 years ago that was trying to figure out a solution for the insurance crisis, and she had mentioned something about why don't insurance companies only insure what the people owe on their mortgage. And I'm like, and that a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, that's actually pretty smart. And you start kind of navigating these waters about what if insurance companies did only insure, charge the people for insuring just what they owe on the mortgage. And the ultimate conclusion I came up with is you would probably have a lot of abandoned properties. Like
Yeah.
you would have these burnt down vacant homes. You'd have a lot of lots that just sat empty because these people would get their money for what they owed to the bank, and then someone stuck with the rest of this house. This whether it burned down or whether tornado or hurricane came through and destroyed it. So that's the only thing I can really think of. The downside of that is you would probably have a lot of vacant lots, a lot of, just crappy looking properties everywhere because, and insurance companies, they're not going to be making much money either. So we would have that problem again of them leaving, most likely. Did you hear anything about this, one of the solutions from that lady?
I hadn't heard of the proposal. Yeah, I'd want to understand fully the ramification, just
Exactly.
fully of any specific. But this is an issue we're going to be looking at very top of mind.
Yeah, that issue. And I think, listen, if somehow you guys can figure out how to fix the property tax situation, which they're working on, which that would be a godsend. That would be amazing. That's going to help people. Um, and the property insurance is already it's kind of already acclimating. Like you said, people should check around for rates. Don't just stay with the same company. Trust me, I learned my lesson. If you stay with the same company, they're not going to do you any favors. They're not going to just charge you less out of the goodness of their heart. So you have to go out and you have to shop around. Um, I
Doesn't even
actually
hurt you
think it
to
really
talk to multiple agents. So
exactly get them competing, man. Get them competing with one another. That's the greatness of capitalism, man. Is competition. It works in the consumer's favor for sure. Um, there's so much stuff that I wanted to talk to you about, man.
throw
I
it
don't
at
know.
me.
Yeah, I don't know. How much time do you got? I mean, are you open for a while or? You just want to keep
Um,
going or what?
yeah, let's keep going. Maybe another 20 minutes or so. It's
All
okay.
right. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think I allotted like an hour. I figured we would do like an hour an interview. Dude, all this stuff is so helpful to people. Just because a lot of people, we're working, man. Like we're out there, we're going to work 9 to 5 every day. A lot of people only see the surface of politics. They only see the surface of what's actually going on. And sometimes if you don't really dig deeper, which a lot of people don't, I always call them the headliners. These are the people that are doom scrolling through social media and all they're reading is headlines. And with the media environment that we have today, it's really easy to manipulate people into thinking what you want them to think just by headlines, saying, you know, uh, um, who knows? I mean, you know how the left does it. The left, they own the language, man. These people have mastered the art of manipulation by way of language. When you say things like assault rifle versus just rifle, why do you say assault rifle? Well, because it sounds scary, So it's like they've mastered the language and how to manipulate people by changing it. So then that kind of brings me to my point of this kind of defense that Republicans are going to have to play from here on out. Byron Donalds, I think, is probably a pretty safe bet, man. I think he's. I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it, but I think he's probably most likely going to be our next governor. I hope so. Florida has done nothing but get redder, in my opinion. So, but that doesn't mean that these people can't. They want Florida, man. This place was a purple state for a long time, and so they're eyeballing Florida big time. 29 electoral votes. They see this place as a potential win in the future if we let up our guard. And so it's good to know that we got people like you going to Florida, going to Tallahassee, going to represent us, and to make sure that these things that we have now that we've come so far to get stay with us and you guys build on them. Um, yeah, so I was gonna ask you, so do you have to like drive to Tallahassee like every day to go to work or what? Like how does that work?
So during session, you would generally live up there. So yeah, I'd find a place that could accommodate me. I'm going to bring the family with me. It'll be a
That's
family
awesome,
affair.
man. That's
And
awesome.
there's committee weeks and things like that. Yeah, you can come home during the weekends. I assume, we would stay up there during the 60 days of session. Unless there was a particular event during a weekend that we wanted to make. Um, but yeah, but most of the time, we're representing the area and we're living in the area.
That's how it's supposed to be, man. That's how it was designed. I think a lot of people they don't really understand the the nitty gritty part of politics. It's like, oh, they see these people in Washington, D.C. And local politics are kind of run the same way, but it's local. So like you said, you're going to be here majority of the time with us, with the people, hearing complaints, hearing concerns, and voicing those concerns, and then taking all that up to Tallahassee with you, with your power to vote, man, with our vote.
Yeah, and it's a big responsibility, and every time you vote. And one of my favorite quotes was the old Teddy Roosevelt man in the arena. You're gonna upset someone, but
Oh yeah,
better to be in the arena and
exactly.
and accomplishing something. And so, you know, there's no way to satisfy everyone in a vote, but you consider everything everyone says. You know, uh, and that's actually one of the most frustrating things about being on it because, you know, when you cast a vote that someone disagrees with, a lot of times people will say, well, oh, there they go again. They don't listen to the people. They don't
Hmm.
listen. You know, uh, yes, we listen to the people, but there's a lot of people that we're listening to.
Exactly. There's two sides of those people, man, at the bare minimum.
And I was asked on another show yesterday, like, well, if 60% of your district favored something, would you vote that way?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
And I said generally I would, that's a very strong um, factor in support of it. But for example, I'm pro-life. If
Yeah.
65% of the district, supported Amendment 4, I would not
Yeah.
vote for a pro-abortion Amendment 4. And so, at the end of the day, we live in a republic. We weigh constituent feedback, and it's one of the most important factors.
hmm
But
And
we
that's why
also,
it's a republic and not a straight democracy, which is
yeah,
what a lot of people get confused. Straight democracies are dangerous.
yeah, we weigh all the information. We weigh all the facts, the economic effects, our
hmm
philosophy, our morals, our ethics, and then we come together and make a decision. And so, but yeah, constituent feedback is one of the most important things, but it's not the only factor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why it's like I was going to ask, are you like kind of one of those? Are you kind of one of those look at the polls with every decision you make, or are you kind of like you take the majority of the concerns in your back pocket and you kind of just go up there and you're just like, look, I know that 60% support this, but like you said, this is an anti-pro-life. I can't do it. So it's like, it's hard, like you said.
And people don't like the Charlie Chris put your finger in the air and see which way the wind blows approach. They don't like,
No,
ultimately they want people that are going to lead, and they want people that are going to make the best decisions. And as Governor DeSantis always says, like if you get out and lead, the polls will follow.
absolutely.
Um,
hmm Yeah, that was like you said, not everybody's going to be happy with the decision, but at least that person will know that you made a decision based off all possible knowledge that you have, all possible. People don't like when politicians go up and they vote for something that they, just 6 months ago said they supported, or they don't support. People don't like the wish-washy, I'm doing it because that just it stirs conspiracies, man. It stirs questions. It stirs, why did he vote this way when just 4 months ago he talked about not voting for it? It's like so people don't like that. So, like you said, if you can go up, you keep your morals, you keep your ground, you stand your ground, and you go up there and you vote. That it's not going to make everybody happy, but at least they know they're being led by someone with integrity, someone with morals.
well, and some of the things too, it's like there was a politician who was asked the other day about a bill that I've got a little bit of a problem with, the Live Local Act, which I think that local communities should have a say in growth, and that
Of
and that
course.
and I feel like Live Local and some of the other legislation stripped a little bit too much of that. Now, but this politician was asked, like, what you say you're gonna support local control and curb growth, but you voted for Live Local. And he said, well, there's major problems with that legislation. It was the top priority of the Senate president. Um, and in exchange for that legislation, we got the most conservative session in Florida history. And so there's a whole host of bills during that session that got through. And so sometimes you weigh all of the facts, and you weigh all of the things that you're fighting for. But I definitely think that we need to do a lot to correct the damage that was done by Live Local.
Yeah, well, that's gonna take time. There was a famous quote by Thomas Sowell. I don't know if it's a famous quote by his, but that guy is my
I
friggin'
love
idol,
Thomas
man.
Sowell. Yeah.
Dude, and he said some of the stuff he says is so deep, man, and it's so it makes you think over and over and over about it. He said, and I'm paraphrasing exactly what he said. He was like, the problem with politics is the the people that should run for politics don't, and the people that shouldn't run for politics do. And essentially, when you think about it, we have exactly the wrong people running in politics. I said this to you on the front porch when we were talking about doing this before we even talked about doing the podcast. This is one of the things I was talking about is you have, I think at the time was your opponent, Coulter, or I can't remember. I think it was
Yeah,
Coulter, I think, but I think he since dropped out, right? We
right.
didn't even
Yeah.
talk about that since we spoke last, but and you're like, well, he's a lawyer, he's a rich businessman, probably multimillionaire, I'm sure, driving around that big Trump bus. He had that big bus with the Donald Trump, the fist in the air photo, and you're looking at it, you're like, well, that's a pretty big bus. I mean, that's probably cost, quite a bit of money to rent and to own. And you look at the guy and you're just like, oh, great, another millionaire, former lawyer, or former, whatever, nepotism or whatever it is, and going to represent us in politics. It's like, there we go. Somebody that actually has no connection to the people, probably has no idea the struggles people are actually dealing with, but yet we have them representing us with some of the most important decisions, some of the most impactful decisions that we're going to be going through. And that's why, dude, when you go around, someone like you, and when I seen you going around in your personal vehicle, right? It's like it was some, SUV. It's not a
Nissan
brand
Rogue
new SUV. Yeah, I mean, it's not something.
2020.
Yeah, it's not brand new. It's not like you're rolling around in a brand new Tesla or a Range Rover, and you're literally going door to door with a pad of paper in your hand, and you're discussing these issues. You didn't know me. You had no idea I was a podcaster. You had no idea I had this show. And you came and you knocked on the door and you're just like, hey, I'm running for, District 85 in Florida. I'm Anthony Bonna. I'm like, how freaking awesome is that, man? To know that we still got a politician, we still got somebody that's working, and you're going to take that with you up there when you go and vote. I would much rather you have it, right, than the other guy that you don't really know why he's into politics. I mean, maybe maybe he's just doing it for the fun of it, maybe because he's run out of stuff to do and he wants to leave a legacy. So it's good to know that somebody like you is going to be up there representing us because I think we have a lot more in common with someone like you who's middle class, who's not a multimillionaire, who's not you always have to question motives. Is something I tell my listeners all the time. Question motives. People always have motives. To me, your motives are clear, man. You got a history of hard work. You've been doing this not super long. And that's another good thing. You're not 80 years old, still in politics. Like you're up and coming. You're young. I don't know how old you are exactly, but you show that you want to work and you're in this for the right reasons, man. And that's what matters to people. That's what matters.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate Tom's support too. He was very gracious and when he exited the race. But yeah, I mean, I'm running because, like I said at the beginning, I care about the community. It invested in me
You can tell.
and my I've got a family. We've got you know, several kids and
Which
we want to
matters.
we want to stay here and we want this place and this state to be great for years to come.
Yeah, and it's good also knowing that you have a family. That makes a big difference. I mean, it's like how anybody can run for politics and not have a family is beyond me. Like, how does someone actually, how do we have somebody, either whether it's in Washington, D.C., but how do they really don't know what it's like to have a family. And to me, that's, as Americans, that's one of the biggest struggles in a country. It's one of your biggest purposes here on earth is to grow and raise a family. So it's like to have somebody making decisions for you that has no idea what that's about. I don't know. I guess there's kind of a disconnect there, man. It's like, well, it's kind of expensive raising two kids. So it kind of sucks that you voted for this bill that's going to increase the cost. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you have a family, there's that connection there with normal everyday Americans, everyday Floridians, that you're going through the struggles just like we are, man. That matters.
Yeah. So any controversial city topics you want to go over for we can-
I was wanting to get back into I was going to talk about the soccer thing, the soccer stadium, but we'll just save it for another episode, man.
Yeah.
We'll probably do this again. I know my listeners are going to appreciate, just getting to know you and getting in touch with the policies that you support, what you don't support, and I think it's good that they know they got someone going up there to fight for them, man. But we'll
Well,
get into all this other stuff on the next show. I'll reach back out. We'll get in contact again.
well, no, I appreciate that. I'd love to come on anytime and I mean, just for me, I'm a conservative. I was one of the 30 presidential electors for Donald Trump in 2024. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-Second Amendment, support secure borders, and low taxes, and I believe there are two genders. So,
It's unfortunate we have to say that these days, and but
yeah,
yeah, that is that's a good positive sign for people that you're pretty conservative, man.
and and
Um,
and I say that in the Starbucks nonetheless.
oh, dude,
I pulled over to do this interview. So,
oh, dude, be careful, man. Don't say it too loud. You never know. You might have some blue-haired progressive lib following you around now. This is awesome that you stopped to do this for us, man. I totally appreciate it, and I'm so glad that we got in touch finally to do the show. It was a lot going back and forth to get this done, but we got it done. When is the election exactly? Tell people when to go out to vote.
so I'll be on the November general election ballot. I'll be the candidate for state representative, District 85. If you have any questions between now and then, you want to get involved, anthonybonna.com, 772-237-0984 is my cell, or maybe I'll see you at your door.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and he does actually respond to your emails, folks. He responds to me. He responds by phone, so he's not one of these politicians that are impossible to get a hold of. So
Yeah.
another positive thing going for you, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. All right. So we will go ahead. I'll reach back out. We'll get another show lined up, and yeah. So I'll get all this together, and we'll send this out to the airwaves. And for my listeners, I will be back on later this week. We'll talk about some other stuff, but thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you coming on the show, brother.
All right. Have a good day.
All right,
Thanks.
you too, man. Thank you.